Item 13, the Visitor Strategy Review. Is this you, Mike? Welcome back. We're in your hands if you want to talk.
Yes, thank you. And just to confirm, so on the screen you have the correct set of staff recommendations.
Yeah.
For some reason, an older trim version got logged into the actual document. So you'll see that, and that the fundamental difference is that we intend to come back at least before the end of July 2015 with a draft strategy and a timetable for its completion. So that's a quicker time frame than we had in the earlier draft. So a number of councillors would have been involved and were part of a discussion from the airport company who did a bit of a analysis, and Gavin's got that here, and you've got that, their Destination 2025 document, which looked at basically an opportunity to see what sort of some of the risks and opportunities with the role of the visitor and tourism industry in Christchurch, and started to explore some of the bigger pictures around the role of visitor industry as a key economic driver for the recovery of the city. So that's a piece of work that had been agreed some months ago for CIAL to lead. They volunteered to do that. And really what that has come back and said, actually there's a great opportunity to relook at how we deliver that visitor strategy, how we deliver the role of the visitor and tourism and that sort of activity into the life of the city's recovery. This is really saying empower staff, the chief executive, to go away and to work with those strategic partners, particularly CDC and CCT and others, to look at how we might deliver a modern and robust visitor strategy, and implicit in that is how we might structure the delivery of that strategy as well. So really this is a very, hopefully a simple step to say, yes, let's go away and do that, let's start that analysis, and let's look at the time frame we've got there.
Concept of including innovation as a magnet to the city and all sorts of things like the talent visa and things. So I'm assuming that's been taken on board already, and I don't need to make any comment.
I don't think we need to make any specific resolutions
okay.
about that. Yeah, we can certainly make sure all those elements are there.
Cool. Andrew.
Yeah, pleased to receive the document today. Acknowledge the work done by Malcolm and his team in getting it to this point. I think as a discussion document, this is excellent. I think it's important that we don't make any assumptions around what this might look like until the further pieces of work have been done. It's important that function comes before form, that action come before delivery methods, that we work out the what before we work out the who, and that the debate on what actions are required and who's best placed to deliver them are best had at the time the further work has been done. So in the knowledge of that further report referred to in 6.2, it's clear to say, and Mike, you've certainly addressed this, that there have been significant changes to the visitor market since the earthquakes, and significant work is needing to be done to fully recover the visitor economy in all its senses and facets at the same time as we recover the city. The only other point I would make, and this is from a Banks Peninsula point of view, Akaroa gets 2 mentions in the document, and I would certainly like to see the further work done to have a balanced focus not only on the central city and the city areas, but also on the peninsula and Akaroa as obviously part of our visitor offering, particularly in the tourist sense. But no, I welcome the document. I welcome the further work being able to be done in the relatively short timeframes that we're looking at, and certainly we'll be very happy to support this today.
Thank you for this. Granted, it's a discussion document, and so it invites conversation around it. I still have some big questions over whether it is really transformational, because I actually think that that's the mode into which we need to shift as a city. I'm not sure that it really takes us into a paradigmatic shift as a city. It seems to be obsessed with conventions. It seems to have a city-centric approach. And I know that when you look at the gradual shift to the primary destination marketing over time, such as convention, sales, tourism, marketing services, that is the status quo. That's what is done. But is it actually seeking to take advantage of what the city actually is? I can't find any reference at all to our coastal communities. They seem to be ignored. And I can't really see any reference to arguably the city's greatest asset, which is the whole of the Avon or Takaro River corridor, not just the Avon River precinct. So I think it is it's short at this point, but it is a discussion document, and that's the intention of this today, for us to send it out for community conversation. But I do want an inclusion and a transformational dimension to it. My personal view is that when the east of Christchurch recovers, the city does too. But more than that, much more than that, when the east is transformed, the city is transformed too. So I think it's got to go bigger. It's a start, but yeah, I don't know whether you want to incorporate to enable an overarching transformational visitor strategy, or whether you just want that to come out in the process.
No, I think what we want to do is to have a real visitor strategy, such that we haven't got convention delegates sidelined over here, other visitors sidelined over here, students sidelined over here, international groups sidelined over here, so that they're actually all dealt with as visitors and welcomed to not just the city, but the visitor strategy actually deals with Christchurch as the centre of the South Island, not just the coastal communities of Christchurch, not just Akaroa, but actually the entire South Island. And if you read through this, what you discover is that people coming into Christchurch have a huge impact on the whole rest of the South Island. If they go into Queenstown, they don't. So this is where people come for the whole of the South Island's assets. And if you start thinking about what are not just the assets of this city, but the assets of the entire South Island that we happen to be in the centre of, and the point where people come into, it's a stunning opportunity. And I think what they've done here is absolutely brilliant. Like, looking at where the future of tourism is, where it's likely to come from, what they come for, and what makes a difference, and where they come into, and the impact that has. So I think the work that the Airport Group have done has actually been one of the best pieces of work I've seen on a tourism strategy in Christchurch for a very long time. I think it's excellent. Paul.
I'd like to fully endorse what you just said there, Vicky. but I also want to recognise what Glenn has said, and just to give some assurity to Glenn, this continuation of this work will be in conjunction, obviously, with CDC. CDC are actually currently looking at doing special pieces of work around places like New Brighton, places like Akaroa, places like Littleton, which actually will actually connect into these, and it's about the localised improvement of those areas, which actually, as you say, will improve it for the whole of the city. Because, yeah, I do agree that our natural assets are far wider than just the stuff that's quite local, but they are equally as important. And I think, in many respects, us as Christchurch residents, we undervalue our own natural assets. We seem to have turned our back on them over the many years, and we're now actually taking cognizance of what we've been doing, and we're building towards our rivers. We're actually looking to better our rivers, taking opportunities through the red zone, and obviously the red zone provides a great opportunity for actually New Brighton. So I support what you say, but I think this work will be encapsulated in this outstanding piece of initial discussion work that's taken place. So I'm right behind this. I think it's a great piece of work, and we have as South Island, I think, some of the most outstanding natural assets, not only in New Zealand but in the world. And I think the rest of the world are seeing New Zealand for what it is. It's a safe haven on many, many fronts, but it's also an outstanding landscape right across. So I think we just need to make sure we capture it and actually make sure we actually market it to that level.
Yeah, I too just want to share in some of the concerns, but what I'm understanding we're being asked to do today is set up a process where we can have actually more direct input. But if you look at pages like 314 of our report or 48, it talks about, how important mega events are like the Cricket World Cup, or if you turn the page 49, it says that we need to bring forward the stadium. So, I think it's actually, there's things in here that do kind of, buy into that usual kind of overhype of these major events. Now, we're going to go through a debrief around the Cricket World Cup, for example, just to see what actual benefits these events accrue. We often spend a huge amount of money on the hype, and when we actually look at what we get in return, I think we need to weigh that up versus where we might spend that money on other things like our coastal area or our recreation facilities. So, I think we do have to kind of look at this as someone else has done this. We're now setting up a process where we can feed in and put in the directions where we want to go, because I certainly have some concern over some of the things in here, but I do think we need to have a comprehensive visitor strategy, and I think it does need to look at those wider issues that have been raised. So on that basis, I'm happy to support it, even though I don't agree with some of its thinking.
The one thing that we can't forget is this is the start with regards to a visitor strategy and discussion document. We've talked offline over this when we've looked at it with regards to what makes Canterbury and Christchurch, what gives it its flavour, what gives its value over other cities, etc. And to assist people coming to the entire South Island, we want them to come here. So we also recognise, and we've talked about this, about our community events, the flavour that give our streets, the buskers, kid buskers, kids in town, those small things when visitors come here give us an edge over and above other centres. And how we align this with our event strategy, which obviously is coming to it was 2016, so that's got to be redone as well. So there are some links in what we've got to do in the future. This is a discussion document to start. I think it's actually a really good piece of work. We want to get people's opinion on stadium, major events and other things. And as Yanni said, that we are going to do a debrief with regards to the Cricket World Cup. Look at the success of Te Matatini. We really want to work on that. That gives the flavour of New Zealand. So if we can get more tourists here to give it that real Kiwi flavour. So I think it's a fantastic piece of work. It's a first step, and I think it's a great piece of work. I'm going to support it. Thank you.
Carried. Okay, so we've now done item